Hey, you guys, it's Ken. I've had a couple direct messages through either TikTok or Facebook or Instagram lately that I would like to share with you. One of them asked me about my path. They wanted to know a little bit more about my path and also why I use the term Northern traditions versus Asatru or heathenry. And yeah, how did I learn? Actually, how did I learn all of this? So, like many other people, I have bookshelves and Kindle full of books. I am not great at sitting down and reading cover to cover. I like to pick up a book that I feel drawn to, look at the chapter titles, and I will then read the chapter that I feel drawn to that day, which is also part of the reason I wrote the book and structured it the way I did. I wanted you to be able to pick it up and flip to any chapter and spend 10 minutes reading that one day and then be done, and go back to it the next day. So, of course, there are all of the books. And when I first was introduced to the runes on a more conscious level and began to study them, I took classes, of course, from Ingrid Kincaid, a friend of mine who is also an accomplished author. And that's where I began to learn about them. And the one thing that I believe is a cornerstone to my practice is this concept that I can know for myself. And I have the ability, just as most of us do, to receive communication, to know internally what's up, what's a yes, what's a no, and that really is how my education unfolded dramatically. Trying to memorize the runes, their shapes, and their meanings felt very futile to me. I didn't have a context for them. I didn't have even any idea where to begin to connect with them. So that is why I believe in the book, after I was done writing it, I asked the runes, what am I missing? Or am I missing anything? And 4 runes came out, and the message that I received was, you have to create a common ground. That was the thing I was missing. And the common ground really is getting back to the basics, I believe, of cutting out the bullshit, cutting out the things that are really challenging for most of us humans in this modern Western society. Our disconnection from each other, our disconnection from the earth, our disconnection from the cycle, our belief that we have dominion over. And so a lot of the 4 poems, the 4 prose that I wrote to provide the common ground, help connect us back into those. So if you can get to a place of that, then it's easier to understand. I believe that the runes were an education, that they were, how do you live in this world? How do you live in this society? How do you do it? And these are core concepts on how to be successful at it. So the runes were really my cornerstone. I don't use well, actually, I do call myself a heathen. And in the book, I talk about the concept of why I call myself a heathen, and it's really has to do with similar to a pagan concept of being from the country. It's being from the heath, people of the heath, people of the uncultivated land. Now, I have nothing against any of the organized Northern European pagan, heathen, Asatru groups at all. And I feel and have a slight repulsion to things that are or that try to be organized very similarly to a patriarchal or hierarchical system. And that's partly because I was raised in that. And I believe one of the other things that is key to that, repulsion was maybe a strong word, but listen, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. So if you have this organized religion of Christianity that we grew up in, we have this hierarchy, this patriarchy, and we're used to that, right? Even in terms of going to school, we are used to learning based upon this, especially in America. I'm speaking from my experience here. We have this system of regurgitation where all you have to do is pass the test, and it doesn't even really matter how you pass the test, just pass the test, which is about regurgitating information. So when you leave, even this happens to me all the time in Rune class, and I did it too. So it's just a natural thing for us. It's how we've done it, so it's how we do it until we realize that's not working. Going back to hierarchy, patriarchy, Christianity, those ideas of a structure filter into what we try to build now and what we try to build after we leave, which is why I think sometimes Wicca is a great jumping off point for people who have left Abrahamic faiths, because it has some sort of structure. There are a ton of books about it, and it's relatively new. Now, if you get my book and you read my book, it does give you a bit of a background about what my point of view is, my perspective, because I think that's important for you to know. I think it's important for all of us to know what my perspective is. For example, there are many authors of information about the runes or about Norse or Anglo-Saxon paganism that their point of view is, gosh, there's just no easy way to say that, right? It comes from a racist, white supremacist point of view. And I think it's important to know that. I think it's important to know who you're supporting and how you're supporting. I think it's important to know that we have and we can have a very fucked up version of what it was like to live 2,000 years ago. And it's probably not even close to how it really was. I think that the oral stories passed down that are now written by people who were not living those precepts or the concepts because that's all we have, that's even translated to us through some sort of lens of Christianity. It's super easy to take, and I'm not saying this is true, and I would also like to just point this out. It's also easy to say, Odin, being the Allfather, hung on a tree for 9 days, and was stabbed in the side by his spear. It's very similar to Christianity. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I absolutely believe it happened. I believe in that journey as a shamanic journey, and how the runes came rushing into this existence of Midgard. So, but you can see how it's very similar, and how a lot of times things, they attach, right? They attach. We see it a lot, I believe, in Celtic things, or days of the names of the days of the week. They attach, and they survive through the attachment. And it doesn't always mean that how we view it today is how it was viewed back then. Now, having said that, I'm also not a Reconstructionist. I believe that the runes and the gods exist today. They've watched us progress, and maybe even fucked around with that progression a bit. And they have ideas and opinions, and they still have desires. And the idea that even in, I don't even think we should call it a pantheon, but in the Norse pantheon, that there are certain examples where the gods even had worship of something higher than them, is an interesting idea. And it can be so complex and really beautiful. And I say on the back of the book, the runes are wisdom for living, and they are living wisdom. And that is exactly what my book is about. They're stories of modern time me, or my clients, or people I know who have experienced the runes in a very complex way, or in a very modern way, because it's hard to bridge the gap between some of the rune poems and understanding really what they meant, even if, well, we didn't have the context, and it's very hard, I think, to grasp that. And to go back and try and reconstruct something is an important part of the conversation. I believe everyone who sits down at the table for this conversation, I believe that anthropology and archaeology are very important. I believe that sociology and understanding how societies work and are structured, and how even the structure of the towns worked, is important, because that feeds us information. Now, I also believe that very important parts of the conversation are how does that affect us today? I live in northern Utah, on the edge of, we call it the desert, but it's not. It's a different zone. But it's dry. It's hot. There's very little water. I live near the Great Salt Lake. And so, pardon me, my experience of the land is going to be different. And I'm not going to interact with the land here like I might if I lived in Northern Europe, or even if I lived back east in Eastern United States. It's different. Some of the plants are different. Some of the plant medicines will be different, because it's just a different place. So me trying to take all of that and reconstruct it here to be the same it to me doesn't make sense. Um, I have a very good, uh, well, I shouldn't say good. I have a very strong connection with the giants, uh, the Jotun, because I'm so connected to the mountains here, and I've always been connected to big giant mountains and big forests, and that part of the cosmology or of all of that makes sense to me, and I connect with that in a very different way. It's like asking, for Sowilo is a rune connected to the sun, the Valkyrie's victory, and how is that? How is your connection with the sun different in summer than it is in winter? How is my connection with Thor different in spring when it's thundering than it is in winter when I really don't have any thunder? How how, how is it different? I think that there is a gigantic cycle that we just still don't even see the structure of. We call it chaos, but I believe there's structure to it. So I am in the process of living my life. I do that based upon um, this kind of dialed down, nuanced relationships I have with the runes that give me um, knowledge and wisdom and guidance. I feel the same with the gods and all of the other characters of the pantheon of Norse and Anglo-Saxon. I would be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge the fact that um, ancestrally, more recently, my family comes from Wales. Uh, all of my family. um, and as we journey back through that, we're now moving into Scotland, which then connects me into Scandinavia and Denmark. So to try and create a fixed, immovable, rigid structure that has no flow, that has no room for new, that has no room for flexibility, to me, is going back to that structure of what I grew up with in a Christian religion. So um, I strive every day to approach my life and my interactions and with people and with the environment and with the place that I live. I strive to make that a more personal connection. I strive to understand that and understand my place in that. I strive to understand the interconnectedness, not just of all the parts of my being, but all the parts of my family, all the parts of my community, all the parts of the land on which we live. And it's something that evolves day to day. So, to answer the question, which I hope I've done, my path is not a path. I don't look at it as a path. Even if you've noticed, discover your path, know your path, follow your path is part of the know your path symbol. The path has nothing to do with a road. The path has to do with what your worldview is and how you choose to interact with the things around you, and how you choose to step onto the soil, to step into the unknown, to move and be moved. It's not about a destination. I frequently say, it's the journey is the destination. And even that is, I don't know, kind of cliche. All you have is this moment and the moments you've had, and those plus this are going to create your future. And that is inescapable. Yeah. I hope I've given you a little bit more of an introduction to that. I know this is about 20 minutes long, but I hope that gives you some idea of a grander, a more in-depth idea of my viewpoint and where I'm coming from. And I hope I answered the question. I will make sure to forward this video to the person who actually sent me the question. And if you all have any other questions, please don't hesitate to ask or send them my way, and I can do more of these short videos. And if you're interested in the book, you can always find it at runewalker.com or on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. So may your weird be filled with health, wealth, strength, and virility.